whereas other teams show um, their robot first. So everybody's structure, theme, content, it'll all be different. Today we're sharing a lot of tips and tricks for your portfolio, but ultimately you have to do the work. We're happy to give you as many resources as we can, but you're the one that has to put in the effort to make your own portfolios. Please keep in mind that we are on actually our 15th year anniversary as a team. So we have a lot of experience and we've been developing our portfolio for a very, very long time. If you're a rookie team, I know we have a lot in the audience today. So happy you guys are here with us. It's okay to not have a super elaborate portfolio this year. You know, it's okay to just hit all of the requirements and call it a day. Nobody expects you to have like this super elaborate and jam-packed portfolio. We will be sharing some resources later this week. We'll probably send them out midweek, more towards Thursday. That'll be the recording of this call, linked to our previous webinar, which is more design focused, and a couple other resources to hopefully get you on your journey a little bit easier. And the conversation continues. So we will be open to reviewing your portfolios as your season goes on. That's something we've done in the past where we give individual feedback. We'll touch on that a little bit later. So before we get into how to make a portfolio, we want to talk about what is a portfolio. I know, like I said, there's a lot of rookies in this call, which is so incredible. So happy you guys are in first. But what is a portfolio and why does it matter? So essentially your portfolio is going to be a 15-page document that documents the entirety of your season. And that's from your robot design, the data you collected to build your robot, the different programming things you did. That falls under what's called the control award, but also your outreach and team culture. First isn't just about robots, it's also very much about who you guys are as a team and as people and what you do in your community. Now, why is the portfolio important? Well, you kind of need it to qualify for certain awards, and this year awards are pretty important with the point scoring system. So awards like Inspire, Think, Control, you will need your portfolio to qualify for those awards. The QR code here goes to the Competition Manual 1, which has basically all of the information, game rules, award rules, award guidelines, all of the things for the season. I would highly, highly, highly recommend reading through it. It's very long, it's very jam-packed, but it is so worth it because it will give you a lot of guidance as to your season, not just your portfolio. So this next slide here is actually pulled directly from the competition manuals. All teams will have the opportunity to submit a team portfolio, which should document aspects of their team which directly support the judged award criteria or information which they wish judges to consider. Ultimately, your portfolio is a document for the judges to refer to. So let's jump into the portfolio. Right now, we are in the prime development time and establishing everything that you need. So we need to get started now. We cannot stress this enough because the last thing you want to do is reach your first competition, be a week out, and have to think, oh, what were we doing in September when the game launched? You want to get started now. And how exactly are you going to do that? That's what we're going to get to right now. So first, you want to set your workflow and your habits. It's really important because it will establish everything else for the rest of your season. So you want to establish a plan and a flow, expectations for different habits, for collecting data, for collecting information, artifacts, pictures, and documenting big milestones or challenges that you've reached. So that can be anything from brainstorming your robot on the very first day, different sketches that you have, different things like that. It is very important to have them, even if you might not include them in your portfolio, because there is a story that you can tell there. I know for our team, a lot of times we'll talk about the silent brainstorming we do. And we'll be like, we did this for 20 hours after the game release. And then after that, we started building our robot design and then ultimately our robot. So What we like to do to organize that is we use Google. We use Google Drive, and we create a big folder for the year. Inside, we have all of the different aspects of the year. We'll have documentation, we'll have outreach, team planning, different robot things. Pictures is really, really important. That way you can stay very organized throughout your season and also be able to go back to the different documents. Now, it's sometimes hard as a documentarian to get your team to actually give you information because a lot of team members don't always understand the significance of the portfolio. Um, but if you really stress the importance of having a strong portfolio for awards and establish good habits early in the season of every week, everybody will check in with the documentarians. They'll give a brief update, whether that be like a 10-minute conversation or a quick write-up of what they've worked on that week. Specifics are great. That'll be really helpful. And again, you can organize all of those things into Google Docs and into Google Drive. Another way you can do that is through like a Google form. If you want to say like, what are the big milestones you've done this week? They can fill that out. What do you want to work on next week? They can fill that out. That's also just good for general team culture and habit. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do as a team to gather information, store information, just a general workflow. As the season develops and you gain more and more information, what we've done in the past is we'll create one big Google Doc for what do we actually want to include in the portfolio. And we start organizing the information into, okay, this is our drivetrain subsystem and all the information we want to put there. Or this is our STEM outreach and all the information we want to put there from the different write-ups. That way, when we actually go to make the portfolio a little prettier, we can pull the information right from that doc. So now we also got some questions of like, what do I actually make the portfolio in? Yeah. You know, and what we've found to be the most effective tool is actually making your portfolio in Canva. That's what we made this slideshow in, and it is very accessible. Public school students in the US, you may have access to it already through your school accounts. You may have a premium account through your school. If you don't, no worries, because Canva is a free resource. There are just a lot of other aspects that come with the premium account, but it is very accessible. It is very easy to use. There are a lot of tutorials on YouTube on how to use it effectively, and we've found that it is much easier to use than, say, Google Slides or Google Docs. However, if you do choose to use Google Slides or Google Docs, PowerPoint, InDesign, all of these different things, feel free and please, please, please customize it, because you can actually manipulate a Google slide to be the size of a normal sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11. Don't just settle for the regular slides. Take control of your design.
Real quick this is Coach Mike, Kelly and Lynn in the chat. Thank you so much, girls, and note that Canva is free for 501c3. A lot of teams have that nonprofit status. Thank you, Kelly from 23247 and Lynn from 5237. A good reminder, if you're a teacher or somebody with a school email, you can get Canva Pro for free. So great in the chat. Thank you so much, friends. Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, Canva, super powerful, highly recommend it. If you want to go sidebar after this call and ask some more questions about it, we're happy to answer all your questions because we have found that it is awesome. It's probably one of my best friends on the internet in this time. So next, after you've chosen what you want to do, you got to establish your brand. You'll notice from our slides, we have a very purple theme. We like our purple. We like our stripes. And that's something that's very trademark to us. So you're going to want to choose fonts. You're going to want to choose your colors, things like that. So you want to learn from the pros. Major brands, think about it. If you see all of these different fonts, these different colors, they're really easy to recognize. That's what you want to establish with your team. If you have an established team color or a team logo, those are all great things to pull from. You can see our logo in the bottom right corner. It's Galaxy, it's purple. We have our Babus New Way. It's a funny word. We have our TARDIS font. And so how exactly do you choose a font? Simmons, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just very, very briefly. This is Coach Mike. I'm a graphic design and journalism teacher in a public school. And friends, the easy one for coaches and mentors out there, just because you have 1,000 fonts doesn't mean that you use all 1,000. Very briefly, we want to pick a header or display font that really draws the eye. And then for the body copy, the content of your sentences and bullet points, things like that, you would want just a utility font. We use Babus Neue and Leto in our portfolio. This is not a graphic design session, but just on principle, narrowing it down as you see down there in the bottom. I think Nicole's going to follow up. Consistency is the key to all of this.
Yes. So with that element of consistency, think back to your different textbooks in school. Think back to different websites that you've been on. A lot of times they'll have very consistent headers and a structure that's really easy to follow. In our portfolio, we would like to go to the next slide. All right, here we go. So we're just going to break this down really quick. So you can see we have a header that goes across every single one of our pages. You can see that we have our page number. We have at the top the award that we're trying to aim for with that page. That's something we really like to do because it makes it really easy for judges. On the topic of judges, you have to remember judges have if you're a rookie team, we're just gonna put it that way, judges have very little time with your portfolio. As much as they would love to spend 2.5 hours reading all of the information in it, they probably have 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 10, to actually go through and get the information that they need. So you wanna be as concise, as eye-catching as you possibly can be. You can see here our header font is Babus Neue, our body text is Leto. We have purple boxes to separate information if we have a lot of information on the page, which on this page we do. Something that we do is columns. If you're reading something that goes all the way across the page, your eyes are going to get very unfocused. If you think about newspapers, those columns are really small because they're designed to keep you interested and intrigued.
In design, it's called scanning. You want them to scan and not be overwhelmed by a wall of words.
Right. And yeah, we have all of our colors. In here, for us, we use green as things that are good or breakthrough or the decision that we ultimately made. Red as the opposite of that, something that didn't work or something that we struggled with. And that brighter purple that you see is just kind of our bold font. This is the rest of our portfolio. You can see, like I said, each page is very, very similar in terms of structure and color scheme. This is what will make it easy for the judges to read. So, what goes in the portfolio? We've talked about what is a portfolio, maybe a little bit how to design a portfolio, how to structure it, but what exactly goes into the portfolio? So here we go. Number 3 is what do you put? There are 5 big categories is how we like to think about it. You have your team details, which is your members, coaches, mentors, budget and sponsors, your sustainability plan, your team member goals and training plans. If you're a rookie team, talk about the challenges that you've faced in establishing your team and starting up and how you've worked through these different things because, you know, it's not easy to just jump right into first. There's a lot of different aspects. Next, there's season strategy and analysis, kind of like what we talked about with our brainstorming. Yep. What is the game about? How does your team want to go about playing it? And why will you play it that way? A little bit of discussion behind your team's analysis of the game and your game strategy, which goes right into your robot design. It's like, because the game does this, we want to do that to be able to play the game. And that is probably going to be the largest section, talking about your different subsystems, your drivetrain, your intake, your outtake, the different game piece manipulation, your different subsystems, things like that. After you have built your robot in the portfolio, it makes a lot of sense to talk about how you programmed your robot to actually do this stuff. So that would include like your different control systems, from your autonomous programming to your sensors, teleop, controls, automations, controllers, all of those things to talk about how does your robot do the things that it was designed to do? How have you programmed your robot to do that? And finally, we have our outreach, which is near and dear to my heart, soon to be near and dear to Mira's heart. But there are a lot of different kinds of outreach from STEM professionals that's going and touring different facilities, talking to different people who work in STEM. There's youth outreach, which is like helping out FLL teams, community events, different school events, spreading STEM and FIRST to youth in your community. Then there's also team to team sharing, which this counts as that. So if you want, you can put this in your portfolio. But that's exchanging information, receiving support, giving support, things like that. That's also really worth mentioning. And also your FIRST culture. What do you do to make FIRST really loud in your community? How do you share and spread the messages of FIRST and gracious professionalism and things like that? So now we have a lovely little breakdown.
Yeah, so we took 10 portfolios from regional championships and world festival teams, and we broke it down into what do they put and how much of it do they put within their portfolio. So this pie chart is by percentage, so you can see robot design, it takes up quite a lot. And then we also broke down outreach into the different sections as well. And then this is, instead of by percentages, it is by pages. So you can see the robot design is about 5.5 pages, and like FIRST outreach, 1 1/4 pages. It's yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately it boils down to about 2 pages for your team details, 1 page towards your game strategy, 5 or 6 pages for robot design, 2 to 3 for programming and control, and about 4 total for outreach. I know for our team specifically, we are very heavy on outreach, so usually it's more of a half and half split for us just because we have so much that we want to talk about. But like I said at the very beginning, everybody's portfolio is going to be a little bit different. These are just suggestions for what your team can include.
All right, so now we're going to talk data. Data is so very important to your engineering portfolio. Some of the reasons why is it gives you a lot of data, which I said on the last slide, but especially in this year's season with the variability of the game and the balls and shooting them, it gives you so many opportunities to record data and then put that in your portfolio as well. Some examples of that are shooting the artifacts from different areas of the field and consistency with different shooting speeds and angles from different areas of the field as well. And we really want you guys to plan your experiments so that you can have the same
repeatability.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Consistency.
And also record your data so you can go back and look at wait, did that actually happen, or did that not actually happen?
Or was there an improvement?
Or was there an improvement? And yeah, we really stress telling your story. And then this is for those of you that were in the center stage year 2 years ago. This is center stage, and for those of you that remember, there was a paper airplane that you had to shoot. So this is all the data that Team TARDIS collected.
No, this is 33 tests.
33 tests of all of the data that we collected, which was a lot.
How much?
We collected over 1,000 launches, and we put that into our portfolio because it was such a big part of like the game that year. And you can see it's kind of cut off, but at the top there in the right-hand corner, we made a scatter plot of all of the airplanes, and you can kind of see them, but they're faded out, of this is where we started and this is where we ended. So that's also what something data can do, is to get you from a really big area to a smaller area, especially with this example of the drones.
Let me interrupt real quickly. Kelly, 2324, or sorry, Annika, if I have your name right. This is Coach Mike again. There's no video content allowed to be reviewable by judges. The portfolio is a 16-page document max with 15 pages of content. I will say, as a pro tip, as a coach and mentor with our team, we include video content on laptops or screens at the pit. Yeah. That's a great place when the judges do come back around after the structured interview. You could say, they might follow up and say, hey, you told us about your plane launching data. Nicole and Mira would think fast on their feet and know, oh, we have a video clip of that, or it's running here in the slideshow on the table. We have done that before, and it's a very powerful story. So you're right to mention it. I just want to be very clear that the portfolio is and only ever will be 15 pages. And it's, I believe, noted in the document that there are not to be external links or QR codes. So if you think, a little sarcasm here from Coach Mike, but if you think you're going to trick the judges and get them to look at your video that's linked on page 14, they will not. Keep those questions coming in the chat. I'm going to turn it back over to the girls.
Yeah. So instead of 2 years ago, this is last year's data of our intake is the top section, and we did 3 different intakes, and our cycle times went from 8.05 seconds to 3.333 seconds. And then the one on the left is match analysis throughout the season, and we felt like we were doing something. It just didn't feel like it was working, but it was working. And we knew that because we had to look at them all together, because it didn't feel like there was a difference, but there was quite a big of a difference. And then the bottom part is actually our autonomous from last year, and there was quite a bit of inconsistency, and we tracked the battery performance, and we realized how important it was to compete on fresh batteries every single time.
So, in creating your portfolio, when you have your data, when you have all of your information, like I said, you only have a couple minutes to stand out to the judges, and you want to make it as easy as possible for them. So, if you look at the competition manual, from pages 42 through 46, that is where all of the specific award criteria are. It's a great starting point for how to phrase your portfolio, what to include, and get a sense of what language you need to use to easily communicate to the judges, because it'll show you exactly what they're looking for. If you really study the awards and use their criteria to guide you, it'll make it so much easier for the judges to actually find the things. Like the slide says, you want to make it as obviously as you possibly can. So when we build our portfolios, after we build them, we go back and we evaluate it against the different criteria from the awards, and we think, does it hit every point? Even if it says it's suggested or recommended, that doesn't really matter. Everything for us is required. In our brains, everything is required. So here are some examples from our portfolio. Even from just our table of contents, we already have the award names in there. Innovate, Control, Connect. That makes the judges, if they take the time to look at the table of contents, they're like, oh, Connect, cool. I'm a Connect judge. I want to go look at their Connect pages. And also, even in our pages, you can see there from the think criteria, required letter B, is lessons learned. What are we going to put in our portfolio? Lessons learned, because that way judges can make instant connection of, oh, I'm looking for lessons learned. Boom, there's lessons learned. Something that we actually ran into last year was we kept missing the point for cost-benefit analysis. We were like, okay, how can we make this any more obvious? Because we kept trying to say it, and we said it really indirectly. We put it in bright red, all caps. There's no other way that we could have done it, because we just had to have the judges see it.
And look at the red and green pattern. Just speak to that again for people who've just joined. Why is that throughout?
Yep, so the red and green again is, red is signifying things that are not as good, things that cost us things, if we're going to use their language. And the benefit is in green because it's something that's good. It's something that improves our score, improves our performance as a team. So final tip.
Yep, so our final tip is to start them young. So as I said earlier, I'm a freshman, Nicole's a senior. So when she graduates, as she is our lead documentarian, we're going to lose basically all of our documentation knowledge, which is why I'm mentoring under her this year for sustainability. Like I said, Nicole graduates, we don't have anyone else without her showing me how to do documentation. So it's not only like super important, but knowledge transfer is so important. But not only from the seniors to the freshmen, but also from the seniors to the sophomores, maybe. It's always important, but if your team is all seniors, which does happen, or is senior heavy, you have to make extra sure that you pass down your knowledge if you are a senior to those younger students, so that the team doesn't lose your knowledge. And mentoring is a process because it can go both ways. One of the examples that I have is I've been learning how to summarize detailed info from the build team to make it into just a few bullet points so that eventually I can put that into the engineering portfolio. And sometimes I ask Nicole why we do something a certain way. Sometimes it is the easiest way, but sometimes it's not. And it's one of the more complicated ways. And then I ask her why, and we look it up, and there's such an easier way to do it. And then we learn together. So not only do you have to pass down knowledge, but those younger students can bring fresh eyes to like what you've been doing for like a while.
So I know we said we were only going to share 6 tips, but why would we only share 6 if we could share 12? So,
yep. So design tools, we kind of touched on it earlier, but if you don't know how to use a design tool like Canva or others, there are so many tutorials online, and we have a documentation mentor, but there are so many that make it super easy for people that don't know how to use them to learn. And sometimes even I, at home, as my homework, I'll go on YouTube and look up the easiest way to do something or the simplest way to do something, just because that's how we work.
yeah, for many rookie teams, consider focusing on one award or specific area that you want to really highlight in your portfolio. Maybe there is a lot of growth in your programming team this year. If that's the case, the control award might be a great place to highlight that. And things like that, it can be really helpful to spend a lot more time on a specific area if it's really strong, instead of spending a whole bunch of time on areas that might not be as strong.
And Nicole, can you talk a little bit about the overwhelm that a newer team or a coach might feel about trying to do all of the things in year 1 or 2? How else is restricting that focus helpful to the mentality for a team?
Sure. It can be really helpful because then you're not worried about, oh, do we have enough kid outreach? Do we have enough STEM outreach? Are we building our robot right? Are we documenting our robot right? Are we documenting our programming right? Sometimes it's easier to just really focus on, okay, you know what? It's okay if we don't touch every single outreach thing this year. We really want to focus on robot programming and maybe one outreach event that we did that was really impactful. In terms of a documentation standpoint, that can be really helpful because then you can go really deep into the different things that you did in the aspects that you choose instead of kind of like spreading yourself out thin.
All right, our second or our third point is less is more. It's not English class. Do not write paragraphs. The judges will not read them since they have very little time to read your entire portfolio. Very few sentences and paragraphs. We use a lot of headers and topic sentences, and a lot of supporting bullet points. Keeping it short is super important. And you might have 5 minutes to catch the judge's attention, and don't give them what Coach Mike calls a wall of words because they will not read all of it.
So the next point, your portfolio is a living document. We never use the same portfolio twice. We are always constantly changing with the latest updates, the latest outreach events, all of these different things. After every competition, we put in our new data. We talk about what went wrong at the last competition and what we've done as a team to solve that problem. And honestly, analyzing your match videos or taking match videos and then analyzing them is really helpful because then you have even more data to put into your portfolio. And then you can do driver practice if you're able, if you have the resources. Then you can talk about, oh, since our last competition, in our workshop, we've already improved this much, and we're excited to show that today.
Our fifth point is to make sure you tell the story. Go on a journey. It's process and progress. Change and outcomes are gonna happen. It's wrong turns and success. They're gonna happen. Just deal with it. And that is such a great story to tell in your portfolio because, like last year, we had 3 different intakes. So we told that story, and that was like a half-page piece of our portfolio.
An engineering design process, right?
Yeah,
So
our engineering design process.
Yeah. So, number 6, there are many teams out there sharing portfolio knowledge, us being one of them. If you've benefited from our perspective on portfolios today, that's awesome. We're so happy to have been able to share that with you. Thank you for attending. But we're just one team offering advice, and there are so many teams and resources out there
that we've learned from too. We should
Right.
thank them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And also like the gallery that HiveMind put out, there are a lot of different resources that you can go out and watch. And watch for an email from us, like I said at the very beginning, about halfway through this week, probably closer to Thursday, of another resources document that we'll share out with you with even more resources for that and a brief feedback survey. So with that, that brings us into our Q&A. We want to respect everybody's time. So, if you've got a dash, no worries, this is recorded. If not, please feel free to stay and listen to all the answers to the questions. If you're interested in meeting more individually with us or having us review what you have in your portfolio so far, maybe what you did last year, we're happy to do that. We can't promise it'll be same day turnaround. Not sometimes. We are both very busy students. Yes. So expect that to be a much longer turnaround. That goes all throughout the season. So, if you're nearing your first competition, or even if in February or March you're approaching your regional or state competition, you want some feedback on your portfolio, we're happy to do that. Just please send it to us a week or so in advance so we have the time to give you the quality feedback that we want to be able to give you. Yep. So now we're going to open up the floor for some questions, and we will do our best to answer them.
Yeah, friends. So this is Coach Mike. If I could get a okay in the chat that you can hear my voice, okay, that would be helpful, just so that I know that you're hearing me. Thank you, friends. Appreciate that. Good, good, good. That's enough. Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to both manage new questions and pitch the girls some of the old questions. We really wanted, I hope for obvious reasons, to front their voices and experience in this entire thing. Let me say as a coach and mentor how proud I am of them, and we definitely appreciate your feedback. The girls will be sharing a feedback link because we know that we can always improve, and we would ask that you offer some feedback. Kudos if you so feel, but we'd love to get your feedback later this week. All right, going up to the top, we've got a lot of workflow questions and a lot about a lot about team roles and smaller teams. I'm going to hit a couple and then turn it over to the girls. How many team members do you have in charge of capturing information for Google Drive? Does every team member do documentation, or is there a single person who writes or designs? How do you get people on your team to want to do the portfolio? Our lead doc is in her last year, and we're struggling to get people involved or interested in the portfolio. This sounds like us. We hear echoes of us in here. These are great questions. How do you decide which team members work on it? As a 6-member team of 6th and 7th, we're struggling with roles. With smaller teams, what do you suggest doing? So there's kind of a panoply of related questions there. You guys take it, and I've got a little bit of feedback too.
Sure. So in terms of roles, the way that we do it as a team, it's really where are members interested. If you have a whole bunch of new members that are really interested in building and only a couple that are interested in programming, maybe that's where you want to try to have some influence and be like, maybe we can split a little bit more evenly. In terms of who actually does the documentation itself, I think it's a team effort. Like we touched on in the very beginning of the presentation, if you create a very standard Google form for every team member to fill out, maybe it can be on a bi-weekly basis just so it's not super overwhelming. That'll be a good way to collect all of the information. Now, who actually touches the portfolio? It's only the two of us and Simmons that actually do portfolio and like put everything into it. But we kind of collect information and data from everybody on the team, and that's kind of their responsibility to tell us if something super huge happened.
Could I clarify that it's everybody's role to make sure that the content is there? It's your role to give it structure and make it consumable by the judges?
Yes.
Would you say? Okay.
Yeah. In terms of making people want to do documentation, I think it can be really difficult because sometimes it seems like a really boring thing to do. But like I said earlier, like if you don't have a portfolio or if you don't have a good portfolio, it's really, really hard to qualify for many, many awards. And I think emphasizing that and really learning the new point structure and scoring of this season, it's really more important than ever to have a portfolio so that you qualify for those awards.
And strictly speaking, if we're going to go to the competition manual, I will clarify the only requirement is inspire, think, and control. We are always going to say that any team should make a portfolio, even if you're a first year team and it's 4 pages long instead of the full 15. We would want you to produce something, break the ice, get started, start down that path of documenting your journey. And again, to Nicole's point from earlier, it may be that your first foray into portfolio only goes after your robot design, and maybe you're very proud of your intake and your use of color sensors, something like that. And maybe that is the extent of it. If you watch back through the presentation for a refresher or reminder, those ideas of the content categories, I think that's really instructive. Those 2 pages that we recommend on team details, that's where you get things like a training plan for your team members or your budget and team goals and things like that, how your mentors share their knowledge with the students. You can be pretty precise, even as a newer team, in saying, when we tell this story, it's in service to this award or leaning this way for the judges to recognize us. There's a lot of questions coming in about we have smaller teams, and so how do we split up tasks like portfolio coding and building? I want to note that in some ways that's a much bigger conversation than we're here to manage today, but I don't want to be at all dismissive of you coaches and mentors who are asking that question. A brief snapshot of TARDIS, especially when we're onboarding new team members, we make them do everything. I will tell you, I'm Mira's dad, and we know we have 5 girls on the team, so 1/3 of our team. We have 15 members, so 1/3 of our team is female. But we do have female members heavily involved in programming and some in design and building. We know that Mira is not a robot kid, but Mira is a data kid or data team member, I should say. I'm again dad. But we made her go hands-on with the robot in the off season with some of our example bots, so that everybody gets that touch, everybody gets that exposure, and they're able to then make some choices about, I learned something there, but I really lean in this direction, and I'd like to be involved in this direction. We have the luxury of a 15-member team, yes. One strategy I would use for coaches and mentors asking specifically about smaller teams, if you could categorize the jobs, so programming and control, design and CAD, portfolio documentation, outreach, and maybe ask students for their first choice, second choice, and third choice, right? So, with TARDIS, we have definite some leads in departments, if that makes sense. but they all kind of have a secondary skill set or even a third level skill set that they go to when their first level work or primary focus is either a little less important or when we need to call them up for some added help in an area. So good questions there. Do you want to add anything at all, or did that go? Yeah, go ahead.
I kind of want to piggyback off what he said. In the off season, in like May and June, we recommend starting to get the new members to meetings so that they can actually see what it's like. I've been part of the first community for a while, but Nicole, when she was a freshman, she wasn't. Or when she was an eighth grader, she wasn't. So we do recommend getting kids in the door in the beginning of the off season so they can see what it's actually like, especially if you're a rookie team, because at the beginning of the year, sometimes kids don't really know what I'm going to be a builder means.
And they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, and right. they don't, like, if they're brand new to the first community, they probably don't know pretty much anything. So it's quite important to like get them into everything. So like during the off season, I was in the build room quite a bit to like get my hands on it and to see that documentation was actually what I wanted to do instead of, oh, actually, never mind, I want to be a builder instead. So yeah.
All right, back to some questions, and it's just a note on process. The three of us are good for probably another half hour of this. And if that is very much not what you have for time, recognize we are still recording, so you could catch this after the fact. You're welcome to stay here. We are going to keep the scope pretty focused on portfolio. There's some adjacencies that we will address. I do note, Kirti, and I so appreciate your question about how we deal with disagreements and disappointing moments amongst the team. I might be able to touch on that briefly, but respectfully too, I want to serve the folks who are here to talk about portfolio, and please don't take that, please understand the spirit in which I offer that. Nicole 11999, somebody could reply to you in the chat about Shutterfly. I am not familiar with their platform. I will tell you that Canva is free, and even the free tools are very robust. We push it and push it pretty hard in terms of bells and whistles with like the premium edition and things like that. I would strongly encourage you to look at Canva if you haven't touched it before. If you're thinking about Shutterfly, I would lean Canva. Let's get back to some questions. Sam from way back, Lynn 5237. What type of document do you start with in Canva? Just an 8.5 by 11 custom size. Yep. I don't use the document template because the document template in Canva usually presumes that you want to do more like a word processor document. And I like just a blank canvas. So we go custom size, 8.5 by 11 or A4 if you're European, and away you go. Just Lynn there in the chat. I wanted to thank Sam about a half an hour ago. Sam chimed in with, I've been a Think portfolio judge, and yes, 5 to 7 minutes to make that impression is accurate. You need to get the gist in about 3 or 4 minutes and then dive into the details the rest of the time. So let me just, I've been doing this, I've been in FIRST, this is my 11th year as a volunteer. I was actually on a team back in 1995, but with FTC, this is now my 6th year, and I'm a game announcer and MC in the Excelsior region here in upstate New York. So I have a little bit of perspective on judging and what Sam's talking about. For those of you who are new, listen carefully. For those of you who are experienced, please permit a slight divergence. Your students have an opportunity to shine a few different times with judges. Most competition days will start with a judging round and a structured interview. The structured interview is meant to last a minimum of 10 minutes, where you get 5 minutes to present as a team, and it's just the team, no adults speaking. I hope that that would be obvious. And then 5 minutes of follow-up conversation and questions from judges. But that's not their last interaction with the judges. There are pit interviews and visits. If you're newer to FIRST and FTC, you'll have a booth or a pit, or I would call it maybe a home base, a destination or headquarters for your team during a competition. And the judges later in the day, after they've heard all of the teams, they do kind of an initial shuffle out of those structured interviews, and they say, wow, this team, the Marauding Monkeys, you know, they're really impressive with their programming and what they shared in their structured interview. and we looked at their portfolio briefly, and it looks pretty amazing on programming. Then what will happen is the programming or control award judge will come visit your pit later and do an additional evaluation, either to see if the team can back up the content from the portfolio, or if they can get even further, knowledge and depth from the students on that follow-up interview. The judges additionally are watching how that robot behaves and performs on field, because that would indicate that their control systems actually work. So recognize that there are many opportunities throughout the day for those students to make that impression, that it is not a one-shot. I'll say this way. If you have a rough interview, that's okay. Your day is not done. You've got robot performance. You've got the follow-up interview. I've had my students our team come and say, oh, we really forgot to mention this thing about the banana. I'm just making this up. Well, I'll say to them, then what do you know you need to emphasize if you see a judge at the pit? And they're all like, bananas. So it's not one shot, right? Your eggs are never in just one basket. So Sam, again, thank you. And newer coaches, again, welcome. And hopefully that little snapshot behind the scenes helps for you. There was a question earlier about the Sustain Award. Just briefly, I'll hit this one and then turn it back over to the girls. The question was, with the new Sustain Award, what do you recommend including in the portfolio? Well, friend, no sarcasm here. I would go to page 44 of the competition manual, because that's where the Sustain Award is highlighted. And as I do, it notes that the team must, this is required, discuss, describe, display, or document A, finances and financial sustainability, B, a season project plan or project management, and or C, team sustainability plans and or objectives. Additionally required, the team must discuss how the team tracks their progress towards the plans that were listed above. So all of that as required, that just became instantly for TARDIS and Nicole and Mira must do. If you click back to our thumbnails, please, of our portfolio, way back. For the folks that are asking and paying attention, a couple more. Keep going. It's back here. Okay. So if you were to look at on the right-hand side on page 10, I know that the purple box at the top left of page 10, which is in the lower right of your screen, it says hosting competitions. But for us, that might be sustainability plan, or our plan, how are we doing, question mark, or our progress tracker or something like that. The language from the competition manual says team tracks their progress towards their plans. Maybe instead of hosting competitions there, or this would be a different quick read, it could say our progress toward our plan. Why again? Because that language comes straight from the competition manual. So I just really wanted to drive that home. Again, no sarcasm. It is literally read the manual and make sure that you are in line with it and executing or acting on the things that it wants to see or the judges want to see from you. More questions. There was a question, do you make adjustments to your portfolio from one qualification to the other? But before Nicole answers that, go ahead, friend.
Yeah, I wanted to answer way back, Lynn from 5237. Mira, if you could go to the very end of the slideshow. The question was, how detailed do you go in programming and control? It's after the Q&A slide. Oh, it worked. I love Canva for that. So these are our 2 pages from control from last year. And something that we've kind of struggled with as a team is how to make programming interesting. So you can see on page 9 at the top there, we have what was it? It's not a flow chart. It's
the top right or the top left?
Top right.
Top right. That was finding a bug. That was literally 2 months worth of finding a bug.
Yeah. Right. But we asked one of our mentors.
Decision tree.
Decision tree. Yeah. That's what it's called. Yeah. So we did that. But in terms of how specific do we get, the control award actually asks you to list every single thing that you use, which you can see right under that decision tree, our hardware and software control components on our robot Echo. And there we list, what we use, why we use it, and kind of like how does it benefit us. We also kind of go through, and you want to be able to describe it in a way that most people would understand, because sometimes our control awards are very inexperienced in programming. I know my dad was a control award judge for the competition we hosted, and he was like, I don't know what they're talking about, but this one looked cool, so I liked it. I was like, okay, Dad.
And making it easily consumable. First of all, to all of you who are coach mentors out there who are also judges or are recruiting judges, thank you very much for your service. But Nicole just hit on something really important that first is really it thrives on the work and commitment of the volunteers behind the scenes. And the reality is that you will get judges in areas that are not their subject matter expertise in terms of their professional lives. So the takeaway from what Nicole just shared is make it simple for them to understand is huge. And I wanted to jump in and note, if you look at this, what's up on screen right now, on a control and programming pages, there's no code.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
is no code. And I can't tell you the number of times that Nicole has analyzed and given feedback on a portfolio. It's kind of a service that she offers as part of our outreach that you could participate in. You can email her. But when we'll see a whole page of thin white text on black type that's very hard to read, first of all, and does not have any context clues or here's what we were doing in lines 49 through 65. It's that kind of frustration. You're not speaking well to the judges. This up on screen, we would argue, tells a much more thorough story of our programmers' approach to last year's game than showing actual lines of code ever would. This is the narrative behind it. This is our why, and our why really matters.
Yes.
Back to you.
Yep.
Are you ready for more questions?
Yep.
I did want to hit, do you make adjustments to your portfolio from one qualifier to the other? You said we never what?
Yes. We never use the same portfolio. Now that's almost true, because last year we did use the same portfolio from our regional championship to our premier event.
Because we had no time to revise.
We had no
right?
time to revise, and we also did not change anything whatsoever with our robot or any outreach.
And honestly, we're a little tired at that point in the season.
We were.
That's okay.
We were.
Okay, a couple questions about data. I'm going to bundle them. For data recording, how many trials would you recommend to get a fair representation of the data? How do you know what variables to test for in given data? And somebody else asked, do you use Google Sheets only for your data? What types of data do you collect, for example, A and B testing? The three of us are going to be the first three people to say that we are not the technical people on our team. I teach graphic design. That's the running joke with TARDIS. So I'm really good about asking questions that I don't know the answer to. But we benefit from 7 other mentors that the kids have recruited over the years. And so we know when it's a data question or a setting up an experiment question, we need Mr. Peach, we need Mr. Doan, and we need Mike Walker as an example. And I just want to note that for coaches out there or team leads out there that are hearing our voices, you know, perhaps you need to, or you would do well to recruit technical coaches who can help you sustain those aspects of your team and your program. Do we use Google Sheets only for our data? How do we set up an experiment? We were just talking about, you know, take the hour to set it up, even though it's only a 6-minute experiment. What are some of the whys of that, you two? The power of a good experiment.
Yeah. So going back to our data slides, data and experiments are always going to be such a fantastic story, because it shows you go from point A to point B, and there was all of this change because you did these different because you did these experiments. And then for the question about if we use Google Sheets only, for us, we do, just because we find it's the easiest way to have all our data in one place and to organize it well.
It's accessible to the team.
Yeah,
too.
That too.
We do have, I will say we have, and we love them. We have a couple mentors who are retired from work in upper middle age, I'll say, and some of them have been Microsoft Excel diehards. We are not a Microsoft Teams team. And so we quickly asked them to get over on Google Sheets to literally speak the same language as our student members, and that's made all the difference. Do you have a place or a link we can see the QR code, the entire portfolio? Nicole and Mira will follow up with you with a resources page, but our last two major award winners are there on the left-hand side. Nick, do you want to speak to the center stage plane one just briefly? That was second thing, so top
Yeah.
8. We had a pretty good year that year.
We had a great year that year. We won the Inspire Award at our regional competition, and then that advanced us to Worlds, where we did a lot better than we were expecting to, actually. We ended up being Alliance Captain in Ochoa Division, and we won second think in the Ochoa Division as well.
And proud coach is going to interject here. That means that they had one of the top 8 portfolios on the planet that year. So I'm super, super proud. And we know that the airplane tests, with 1,000 tests there in that package that resulted in the final piece here, upper right of the top graphic. That scatter plot, somebody had just asked in the Adiba, thank you very much for the feedback. Luke, 31417, you said, what did you use to record the paper airplane tests? I had this photo, but I neglected to include it. But I want you to, if you're familiar with the center stage season, they had to fire a paper airplane just beyond the boundary of the field. And the students literally laid down 2 measuring tapes as if to be on a XY axis. And you'll see here, in column 3, the X inches and the Y inches. If you look at trial number 1, it was X -5 and Y +44. All of that corresponds to an XY grid that we had just outside the field. All of the 30s in column 7, where it says points, that was all full score. That was best you could do. And so those dark green 30s was what we were looking for. It's hard to make this all just a verbal explanation where visuals would have helped a little bit more. But I think the thing that I would want to emphasize is, again, designing a good experiment, knowing what you're trying to test for, and then asking for some help, really thinking about it. For those of you who are high schoolers, I'm thinking about tests that we are about to do with this year's artifacts and balls. We literally just had an all hands meeting an hour ago, saying to our students, think about what data you need and then work backward to design the experiment that would get you that. And they want to grab batteries and motors and flywheels right now and start hurling balls around our workshop. And we all said, whoa, time out for a second. We agree that you want to run an experiment, but can you tell us what the procedure is? Can you tell us what step 1 is? Can you tell us what materials you need? That's going to lead to a better experiment on the whole. Mira, you're pretty capable and skilled at this point with spreadsheets. You came all the way up through FLL using them. Would you say, even, I'm leading you to the answer, but the spreadsheets also evolve. Like, oh, this could be a drop-down list, or oh, color can help us interpret. Red is bad up on screen. Talk to that.
Yeah. With this example, the red and the green is just a visual cue to show, on this one we didn't do so good, but on these ones we did amazing and we got all of the points. It's quite easy to figure out how to color code stuff in Google Sheets.
Conditional formatting.
Yep. And we use it a lot, just for that visual cue to be like, oh, we did good. Oh, we didn't do good.
We did well.
We did well.
Dad talking. There you go. And then here, the purple chart, and you can see kind of the heat mapping. If you see dead center where it says goal reached, this is from last year. I still love that green smiley face on the right-hand side. We wanted to see that. And I think Mira spoke really well to this before. Like, are the things that you are imagining, like, hey, maybe if we X, then the robot will Y. It's great that you hypothesize that, but running the experiment and then proving to the judges that your hypothesis worked. Or, and I really celebrate what Mira said, like, it's okay to have a hypothesis and then find out that you are so completely wrong. There's value in telling that story as well. If we, where's the red chart? I think it's the final, now the new final slide. That bug in there, was it the auto last year? Yeah. That top right, the ghost in the machine, that was 3.5 months worth of team members knocking their heads against the wall to try to figure out what the heck was going on. And it tells a good story. So don't be afraid of sharing obstacles and challenges and the journey, because it tells a much more holistic story in your portfolio. Other questions? Okay, structure. A couple of interviews. A couple of questions about the presentation. This year, I think they've refined the language to structured interview, a structured interview. And one thing that I've heard, I believe this is global. I'm going to say, don't quote me on it. Go look it up yourself. But for experienced coaches and everybody listening, I believe I'm led to understand that every team this year, I don't believe this is just our region, every team this year is guaranteed to have a question asked from a common question bank, so that the teams at, shall we say, 8 o'clock in the morning are being evaluated on a direct one-to-one with questions from 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Everybody who goes into the same room or the same judging situation that morning will, for instance, be asked, tell us about your drivetrain. And every team will have an opportunity to answer that question, so that the playing field is leveled. And then from there, the judges take it whichever way they want to or they're interested in. But rolling back to the question, how do you tell a great story in the presentations? How do you get ready for the presentations? Ours, I'm going to just say briefly and then let the girls take over. Ours are scripted, generally to talking points, so the kids can put a little of their own passion and emotion into it. And they emphasize and highlight things, breadcrumbs, you might say, that we want them to pick up on in the portfolio. Nicole?
Yeah, so essentially our interview is a very mini version of our portfolio. We try to highlight the biggest key concepts that we want the judges to pick up on. Maybe we'll mention, oh yeah, we talked to 1,000 kids the other day. And then they'll be like, hang on, you talked to how many kids? And then we can talk a little bit more about that specific event or a specific subsystem on our robot.
It's planting seeds, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how else do we catch eyes of, just we'll do a brief side quest. You walk into the room, how are you making an impression on the judge? It's their 6th interview of the morning. What is Team TARDIS's mindset going in there to really say, whoa, wake up and pay attention? What are some of the strategies we use?
Yeah, mainly we make eye contact. You want to make eye contact with the judges. You want to have a passionate voice. A lot of times we try to put team members on their script on something that they actually worked on, so they can actually be excited about what they're talking about.
It's even attire though too. I've
Right.
seen some purple tutus
We
going
wear
with you guys.
purple tutus. We go in all decked out in purple, basically. Our drive team has purple and white striped pants. They got top hats on. We try to make ourselves very visually appealing too. I know last year we had some purple pointer fingers, big foam pointer fingers that we would use as props. When one of our team members talked about our intake, he was like, we slashed our intake time in half. Just anything that you can do to be very obvious and interesting to the judges. You know, you kind of have to put yourself in the judge's shoes of like, if I'm a 40-year-old 40-year-old guy and I'm on my 2nd coffee of the morning and my 8th team, what's going to get my attention?
Yeah. There's a couple notes in the chat about the size of what you're seeing up on screen. Please don't be deceived. And Kelly from 23247, thank you so much for posting from page 38. I love that you went to the manual. That's exactly what we do too. That type should be 10 points or bigger. We assure you ours is. If what you're seeing up on screen feels small, respectfully, I'm going to say, because you're seeing it on screen and you don't actually hold it in your hands. Our advice is always, and this is Coach Mike as graphic design teacher, you have to print your work to see what you're really seeing. And what I mean is you can get very easily tricked with a zoom in Canva, thinking that something is just the right size, Goldilocks. When you print it, you find out that it's much, much, much too big and your page is now yelling at you, or it's much, much, much too small and you need, a magnifying glass. So 10 points, Kelly, thank you so much for that. You're exactly right on readability. Let's see, how do you organize the presentation so that you talk about what's important in 5 minutes? I'm going to look at you, Nicole, and say half and half. What do I mean by that, and how do we approach that? It's a soft half and half.
Yeah. So similarly to our portfolio, it's almost kind of like an exact translation for us because, we have 15 members, 15 pages of the portfolio. Usually the first person to speak is, "Good morning, we're Team TARDIS. We're excited to be here today. We're going to tell you about our season," which goes right into our brainstorming process, which goes into what does our robot look like and into a couple different subsystems. Usually we have one student talk about each different subsystem respectively. So like one person would talk about drivetrain, one person would talk about lift and gripper, or well, one person would talk about
depending
lift.
on the game. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It all depends. But
And then control.
Yeah,
right?
we usually have two people to talk about control. We have one person talk about teleop, that's driver controlled section, and we have one person to talk about auto. That's not just programming the robot, like, oh, I can press this button and our robot goes and does stuff, but that's more talking about the actual automations on the robot. When our robots are
Use of sensors.
yeah, our use of sensors, our use of cameras, our April tag detection, things like that. And then we go into our outreach. And for our outreach, we try to highlight different events in the same categories. And those usually go person to person to person. So, for example, maybe this year Mira will talk about our first outreach. She would be like, oh, yeah, in September we hosted a portfolio workshop that reached however many teams. And she'll also talk about, my brother Dean gives technical advice to teams across the world. And then I would go on to talk about, and we gave these different STEM boxes to elementary schools, things like that. Do you think that answers the question?
Yeah, I think so. No, you're totally good. It's again really about planting seeds, recognizing, and I think sometimes teams feel like they need to exhaust themselves and share everything in that structured interview. And I would really say that's the worst idea because there is something to be said from a dad and coach mentality here to all the adults out there. I'm going to sound super old, but like this is life skills stuff, right? The girls are able to sit with you here today, granted behind a camera, but present with some poise and some courage because they've done it before. They've practiced public speaking. And so I think we do a disservice when the girls and their teammates would feel like they have to speak a million miles an hour to get it all in there. You really want each kid to deliver on one clear point and hand it off to the next, knowing that you have multiple other opportunities for them to pick up on things that pricked their ears during that structured interview. We're going to wind down in the next couple of minutes. The chat has gone a little bit quiet, and please don't hit me with 30 questions right now because that'll kick us into the next half hour of more questions. Not that we don't want the questions, but the conversation can continue, and I'm going to turn it back over to the girls. But I think we've hit most of what came in on questions. So yeah, just on wrap up on continuing the conversation and availability of TARDIS to support some teams out there. What do you want to share, girls?
Yeah, again, we are so excited and so happy that you joined us today. We're very happy and proud to have been able to share all this information with you. Please stay in touch if you have any questions. We're happy to answer them. If you want to have a more one-on-one Zoom call where we can actually have a conversation about different things in the season, if you want technical help, we're also open to give that to you. I know today was much more documentation, but if you want outreach ideas, if you want to learn how should I reach out to STEM professionals, or if you're like, how do I program a robot? We are happy to help you. Just reach out to us. As we get later into the season, like I said, we're happy to review your portfolios. Just make sure you give us, about a week of time to actually get the information back to you. But yeah.
I will say QTC325663 asked, do you send all of your members to the structured interview? Actually, we do. I don't think it's a strict requirement. I believe it's not a requirement. Read the manual. We do, but what we do is prioritize our younger members to be the first folks to present. And we hold some of our older members in reserve to make sure that they are the first ones with the largest knowledge base and most experience to answer initial questions. And we practice and drill interviews many times before competition week comes. So it's something we recommend to do an interview with some spare moms and dads and family members or mentors from another team. Do a little tune-up before you go out to competition. Appreciate all the kind words. Kelly, thank you again. The minimum for interviews is 2. Thank you. 23-247. Kelly, you're like a champion in the chat. Thank you so much, Kelly. And thanks for all the kind words, everybody. As a coach, I can say, and as a dad to one of these fine young people here on camera, the girls worked really hard the last 2 weeks getting this ready for you. And we hope that you'll take some time with the feedback form when it comes your way, and that you be in touch. We'll see you guys around, and we want to say goodbye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Take care, everybody. We'll see you later.